Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to Birds of Pakistan. I am Akbar Ali Asif, an avid birder and wildlife photographer from Pakistan. I've been doing birding for almost 20 years now, and this has become a craze. On this channel, I'll be sharing my bird photography with you, and I will try to give you some tips that would help you in identification of different bird species. Obviously, we'll discuss birds in details regarding their gender identification, regarding their breeding seasons, and a lot of other activities. Another purpose is to raise our voice in order to save different bird species because we know that there are several species that are on a decline due to a number of factors, deforestation, loss of habitat, loss of habitat because of deforestation and expansion of the human settlements are two of the major causes. So we'll discuss these things in detail. So you know that the name of this channel is Birds of Pakistan. So it doesn't mean that I'll be discussing only the birds from Pakistan, because you know that birds don't follow any boundaries. So we have birds that arrive from Central Asia, from Russia, and from other countries to Pakistan. There are some wintering birds. There are some birds that perform smaller altitudinal migrations during the seasonal changes. And there are some birds that are endemic to the region, meaning that they are restricted to this Indo-Pak subcontinent or a few areas in the Pakistan. So we'll discuss all these things, and I'll have some dedicated episode regarding Pakistan. Pakistan has a lot of variations in its topography. There are lofty mountains in the northern parts of Pakistan. Some of the famous mountain ranges are Himalayas, Karakoram, and Hindu Kush. Likewise, there are mountains in the western part of the country, in the Balochistan province, in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province that is known as KP province. There are mountains in the central part of the Punjab, and there are mountains even, though there are smaller mountains in the southern parts of the country. And the provincial boundaries are mostly based on these mountain ranges, or you can say the mountain offshoots. So Pakistan has an area of around 882,000 square kilometer, and as I mentioned, there are mountains, there are deserts, there is an excellent channel system provided by Indus River and its tributaries, there are marshes, there are coastlines. So all these you can say variations in the topography, or all these differences in the landforms, they support a healthy bird life. Due to all these factors, there are almost, you can say, more than 760 bird species that have been recorded up to date, and this process is still going on, because birding is relatively a new activity in Pakistan, though it is catching up in the recent times. And thanks to the birders and birding community that we are contributing towards this cause. So let's talk about that. What is birding? Birding is an activity, it's a hobby in which different individuals observe birds in their natural habitats. It can be done with the naked eye, from the balcony of our house, from our office window, during a walk, during a picnic. So we can see around us, so there are a lot of birds if you're observing them in nature, naturally. So it is called birding or bird watching. Some authors describe bird watching as a hobby in which you have to travel to some distances to observe different bird species. It is true because there are several bird species that are restricted, or you can say that can be associated with certain habitats. If I have to see some mountain birds, like some particular warblers or other birds, I'll have to travel to the mountainous regions, and likewise deserts or the semi-arid regions, they have their different bird species. Yes, there are birds that exist in a variety of habitats. You can find those along the rivers, channels, and even close to the foothills. So we'll discuss these things in the details. And the scheme is that regarding this channel is that I'll be describing different bird species. One bird species per episode, in which we'll have a complete introduction of that bird, and there'll be some useful tips as well. So another thing related to this birding is you can say if someone studies this birding or takes it as a profession with a professional degree, so those people are called ornithologists, and this degree is ornithology, and there are several institutions that offer this degree. So it's a nice thing to have if you have time and you love birds and bird photography, birding, so you should go for it. And this degree is, I mean, offered by different countries. Honestly, I'm not sure about Pakistan, but obviously you will love it if you want a career in this thing. So let's talk a little about bird photography. First, I forgot to mention that birding can be done, as I mentioned, can be done with the naked eye. But sometimes there are birds that are far away from us because you can see some bird high up in a tree, but you are unable to identify it. And sometimes there are birds far away, even walking on the ground. So you need some equipment to observe them closely or hear their voices. So you can use binoculars, you can use some telescopes, you can use telescopic lenses, and if even the birds are close enough, so you can record their voices or video clips through your cell phone camera. So birding and bird photography, these are sort of related things, and it's always fun to record, to have some good photographs of the birds or the video clips. And you will observe that slowly and steadily you will fall in love with this activity, and as I said earlier, that it will become a craze for you. So before starting these things, I forgot to mention that the name of this channel is Birds of Pakistan, and if you see a beautiful bird appears on the logo, it is basically the chokar partridge. That is the national bird of Pakistan, and we'll discuss it in another episode like other birds. So before starting this thing, let me tell you that it is very addictive hobby, and sometimes it is really very difficult to balance between your family life and this activity. So I am really grateful to my family, and who is very supportive, because sometimes it takes you hours waiting for a particular bird, or in order to have a nice photograph or close-up of your desired bird. Initially, you will start from the scratch. As I said, that you cannot be a pro from the beginning because perfection needs time actually. So initially you will be satisfied if you capture a bird from a long distance, but slowly you will feel that you will get a desire to capture close-ups of those birds. So for that thing, I'll have a dedicated workshop, or you can say an episode, in which I'll be describing the photography gear, that how can you start and how can you fit things, this photography gear, within your budget and time as well. Because I started my photography from a bridge camera, and it was really great to have tips from the experts around. There are a lot of excellent bird photographers in Pakistan and worldwide, and you can take help from any one of them. So to cut it short, let's talk about getting into this birding thing. Before you decide, or there's something in your mind that how can you identify different bird species, for that you need to be familiar with some basic terminology and naming of the external parts of the bird. In general, we can say that you are discussing the bird's external anatomy or bird topography, although it doesn't seem you can say perfect word, the bird topography, but many of the authors use this word, bird topography. So I'll be discussing bird topography or bird's journal anatomy in a very basic sense, so you're not confused, or it will not become a boring thing for you. So for that purpose, I have some of my bird photographs. I have labeled them. You can also see some of my photographs in the background. So initially I'll be sharing my bird photographs with you, and as I said, I have labeled them, and we'll just label the basic parts so that it is easier for you to get into this thing or have a startup. So let's start. So we can see a beautiful photograph of a lovely blue throat male bird. It has been named after a lovely blue tinge on its throat. So starting from the crown, you can see the crown labeled here. So in birds, top of the head is known as crown. It can be of different color than the body, and it can be striped. So there are different birds which are named after this part. Some of the examples are yellow-crowned woodpecker, black-crowned night heron, and also red-crowned crane. The two birds I earlier mentioned, they belong to Indo-Pak subcontinent and the neighboring countries, but red-crowned crane is a bird found in Siberia and Mongolia. So coming to the lores, you can see lore as a patch or an area between the bird's eye and the base of its beak. It can be of different color and can be an important ID mark in identifying different birds. Like crown of the bird, different birds are named after the lores. Some of the examples are black-lored waxbill, that is a finch found in Congo. And then there is black-lored parrot. There is yellow-lored toddy flycatcher, that is an endemic bird to the Brazil. So all these parts are very important. Then coming to the chin, chin is just below the beak or bill of the bird, and it can be a patch, it can be very small, I mean color-wise. Otherwise, it is an area just like the chin in humans. So it is the upper part of the neck of the bird, and after this part, there are different names of the bird, so it is also very important. Some examples are black-chinned babbler, that is a small babbler from the northern parts of Indian subcontinent. Then is black-chinned sparrow. Black-chinned sparrow is a bird from Mexico and southwest United States. Then right below this chin is a patch known as throat of the bird. Here you can see the name of the bird is blue throat. So you can see this throat patch. Although it has white, it has rusty color, and it has a lovely blue in it. So it is known for its blue color or blue band on the throat of the birds. So there is a very small difference of the area in breast and also the throat. So I will start from the left and we'll come to the this label. So then I have intentionally not labeled it here because the position of this bird was not ideal to describe the back of the bird. It is known as back or also the mantle of the bird, and it is also a very important part or a field mark in identification of different birds. So we can see the rump of the bird. So rump is also an important part, and it lies, you can say, between this back or the mantle of the bird and also between this tail or the upper tail coverts. So it can be of different colors, and there are several names after this part. Some examples are black-rumped waxbill, that is again a finch found in South Africa. Then there is black-rumped flameback, a lovely woodpecker from the Indo-Pak subcontinent. And then there is yellow-rumped warbler, a North American species of the warbler. So you can search for other birds. All of these names are very important, as I said, in identification of different birds. So talking about upper tail coverts or upper tail coverts, these are coverts are small feathers that cover a specific part of the bird. So in this you can see there's a small rusty tinge here, so can be an identification mark for identification of these smaller birds. So and also you can see the tail can be of different sizes, different shapes, and it enables the bird to perform different functions while perching or during its flight. So tail can be wedge shaped, it can have a square cut, or it can be fork shaped. So later when I'll be sharing images, I'll be discussing these parts separately, and that would definitely be helping you. If you see, these are undertail coverts. So just like the upper tail coverts, these undertail coverts are small feathers that are covering, you can see, the base of the tail and also to some extent the vent of the bird. Then there are primaries. Primaries are the largest of the flight feathers of the birds, and there are 9 to 16 primaries in a bird. I'll be discussing in a coming image. Now moving to the breast or chest of the bird, because in ornithology, breast is more commonly used by the scientists. So we are using this bird. They are using this word. So just like throat, throat is a patch, because the bird has twisted its neck here. It is an awkward position, but you can see the breast here for this typical bird is a patch covering this black band, white, and also the rusty color band. So it is also an important part, and there are different birds that have been named after this part. Some of the examples are rose-breasted grosbeak. It's a large seed-eating bird found in North and South America. Then there is blue-breasted bee-eater, a lovely bee-eater from Central Africa. And there is yellow-breasted fruit dove that is endemic to Philippines. Then coming to the belly. So belly is the whole portion, you can say, starting from the base of this breast or chest and going down to the vent of the bird. So it is also an important part, especially in identification of juvenile birds and separating different bird species from each other. Torsus here is a bit complicated word, but I will explain it in a simple sense that can you see this part? Because birds don't have any knees. So we can say that this is a backward facing knee, and also these are the ankles of the bird or the toes of the bird. So the area or the bone or part lying between this backward knee and also the toes of the bird is known as the tarsus, or it can also be called shank, or if you want to use a more simpler word, you can just call the leg of the bird. So moving to the other image. This is a close-up of a crested lark. As I mentioned earlier, it has been named after this beautiful crest of feathers on the head. So it is understood that the small feathers that make a projection or a pyramid type shape on the head of the bird, they are known as the crest feathers. And there are different birds with this crest. We can see Eurasian hoopoo bird, crested bunting, and as you can see this bird, the crested lark. So it is also an important part, and birds, it is also an important part in studying the different behaviors of the bird, because sometimes birds raise this crest during feeding, during mating rituals, and during a territorial fight. So now you can see the eye of the bird. So this bird in particular has a prominent eye ring, although it is of white color, but eye rings can also separate different bird species, and some bird species eye rings are quite prominent and have contrasting colors, and in some they are very dull or less prominent, so it is an important part as well. Iris is simply, you can say, a lens-shaped part that is covering the eyelids of the bird. It can also be of different colors, and it can be black, and it would be difficult to identify or locate the pupil in case of the iris is black. So pupil is a small variable central area. Variable in the sense because birds have to adjust to different light situations, especially in dark and light, so they can contract and expand this pupil. Then the ear coverts. Ear coverts are simply the small feathers that are covering the ears of the bird, because we know that the birds don't have external ears. There are small openings that are not visible. So these small covering feathers are known as ear coverts. So forehead, a simple part, you can use the word for crown or the forehead. It is just the start of the head or the crown of the bird. And then the beak of the bird. Beak of the bird, we can use the word as bill as well, because these are synonymous and there's no harm in using both these words. So the upper part of the bill or the beak is known as the upper mandible, and the lower part is known as the lower mandible. Now we know about the chin, so I'm not explaining it. So these are also very important part, because from the shape of the beak, from the size of the beak, we can differentiate different birds, and we can guess that whether the bird is a grain eater or a predatory bird or of any other type like omnivore that feeds on all the stuff like humans. So I will discuss it in detail with my images. So moving to the next image. This is a close-up of a lovely steppe eagle I'm really in love with the predatory birds. So you can see this sear thing. Sear is basically a fleshy part or covering over the beak of the bird, and it can be of different colors. And these can be noticed in different birds like parrots, like owls, and the birds of prey, as you can see in this image. And it can be of different colors, sometimes deep yellow, lemon yellow, or can be of very dull colors. So this is very important, especially when we are identifying different falcons. So nostrils are the openings on the sear part, for which give the bird the sense of smell. Now this gape or gape line, gape is basically the interior of the open mouth of the bird. By this gape, you can make an idea that by how much amount the bird can open its beak and what kind of feeding habits will it have. Like I mentioned, it can be a grain eater, it can be a predatory bird, and so on. But what you will experience that especially in case of the juvenile birds, or you can say young birds, this thing is already swelled up. I mean, the softer tissues of the gape are already swelled up. And second is this swelling can be observed, or a pronounced projection can be observed in case of raptors, eagles, falcons, and and similar birds. So we'll discuss this thing, and also we can call the length of this line as the gape line. It is actually the part or an area where these two mandibles meet. So where the upper part of the beak, upper mandible, and the lower part of the beak, lower mandible, meet. So it is known as the gape line. As I said, it is very important in IDing different kind of raptors. Like if you see, this is a photograph of a steppe eagle. So if you compare it with with a black kite, so sometimes a juvenile steppe eagle and the black kite can't be distinguished. So in order to separate them, we'll have to check this gape line, the extension of this gape line. In case of this eagle, it extends beyond the center of the eye of the bird, while in case of some other raptors and the black kite, it is limited to the it ends below the you can say it doesn't reach to the center of the eye, and thus we can have a separation between the two species. We know nape is a common part. It is just like in humans, the hind part of the neck, so it can be colored, and it can help us in identification of different birds if this nape is of different color. So moving to the next image. Yes, a lovely purple heron in flight, and you can see its spread out wings. That this image is really helpful in understanding these primaries, secondaries, and also greater coverts and the primary coverts. So as I mentioned in the first image, that the primaries are very important. Typically, there are 9 to 10 primaries in a bird, but can vary from 9 to 16 as well. So these are the main flight feathers of a bird. If you see, they are farthest from the body, and they play a very important role in providing the bird with the thrust and lift, and providing it the balance in the air. So if more than half of these primaries are damaged, a bird won't be able to fly. And similarly, the covering feathers for the primaries are known as the primary covers. You can notice these are the small feathers, and primaries are attached to the skin of the wing. For simplicity, you can consider the wing of this purple heron as a human arm. So this is the arm part, and this is the hand part, although it is much bigger and projected, but still for the case, for simplifying the things, you can consider it is the arm and this is the hand. So hand of this purple heron has these primaries, and secondaries are the set of feathers that are very important, and they run parallel to the arm of this bird. And then there is a layer of covering small feathers known as greater coverts. And we are familiar now with this back thing. It is also known as mantle of the bird. So now moving to the next image. This photograph shows a lovely steppe eagle in flight, and the angle is very nice to understand the things I explained in the previous slide. You can check the flight feathers. So these are primaries. We know now that the outermost feathers, the flight feathers, the bigger feathers, and then the set of secondary feathers, and then the small set of tertiary feathers that are closest to the body. They also help giving a proper posture to the bird and also helping it maintain its balance. So these flight feathers in combined known as the remiges, and they are very important in identification of different birds. Then come the tail feathers. Tail feathers are also known as rectrices, or these are the tail flight feathers. They provide stability and control to the bird, and the bird can use it in different sort of displays in steering and taking twists and turns. And as I said, they help the bird to maintain a balance in the air. If this is damaged, you will find the bird's flight will become quite undulating and will be different from the natural flight. So these rectrices or the tail flight feathers also help the bird in applying the brakes during landing or controlling its speed, especially during capturing the small birds in flight. So we'll move to the next photograph. Yeah, so here are two photographs. So I'm using different photographs because naming different parts depend on the posture of the bird, its position and the angle. So if you check out this right side image, it shows a Himalayan blue tail, or you can say orange flanked bush robin. This is a male bird, and you can see the small patches running down from the start of the feathers. You can see the shoulders of the wing of the bird. So these are orange color, and bird has been named after these beautiful patches known as flanks of the bird. So sometimes, yeah, there are of different colors, but as with other birds, it can be of the same color, and then this part won't be useful in identification of this bird in particular. On the left hand side, you can see a male russet sparrow. So you can see this polygon, or you can see elliptical area mentioned as scapulars. So scapulars are body feathers. Normally they are of the same color as the mantle or the back of the bird, and they are just covering the shoulder of the bird. In case they are of different colors, I mean contrasting colors to the body, then they will be helpful in identification. There are different warblers and some finches that have contrasting scapulars, and then this part becomes helpful in identification of the birds. We already know the nape, that it is the hind part of the neck of the bird, and it will be helpful if it is of different color. So in birds, just to tell you one thing, that males are found to be more colorful and showy than the females. There are exceptions where the females are beautiful, or both sexes of the birds are alike, and one cannot differentiate between them unless some DNA or detailed tests are run. So moving to another image, it's a beautiful green-backed tit, a bird found in the mountainous areas. It is very restless. So I have just mentioned two parts here. The cheek patch, if you remember from the second image of this slideshow, you will come to know that I had labeled it as the ear coverts. So in this case, I'm calling it cheek patch because birds have no typical cheeks, but there are these are the sides of the face. So we can call it as a cheek patch, especially when it is in contrast. I mean, the color is different from the other parts of the head or the neck. So here we can see the cheek patch, and we can name the bird on the basis. We can identify the bird on the basis of this cheek patch. Then are the important parts, the wing bars. Wing bars are also important. You can see these are a contrasting set of feathers. In this particular case, there are two wing bars. The upper wing bar is hiding below these scapulars. Now we know that what are scapulars. And there are birds that have a single wing bar. So it is also an important part. So the last image of this video, I have marked it as malar stripe. Malar in ornithology known as the cheek. We know that birds don't have typical cheeks, but we can use the word face, size of the face, and the other. So here I have marked this is a male crimson sunbird, and have beautiful two stripes running down the base of the beak, or you can say below its cheek or the face. But let me tell you that these malar stripes are particularly useful in identifying different falcons and chakras and the other birds. So we'll discuss these things. There are other related terms, or you can similar terms like mustache patch or mustachial stripe. They are different, obviously slightly different. They are used in case birds have 2 or 3 facial stripes. So I'll be discussing them when I'll be sharing my bird photographs with you. So and the other part, you can see this bird has red scapulars, and there are primaries at the tip, and also it has a glossy tail. So all the parts that I've mentioned in this video will definitely gonna help you in IDing birds, and these are very important field marks, so do keep them in mind. Thanks for watching my video. Hope you liked it and it was useful and informative for you. For seeing more stuff on birding and birds photography, do subscribe to my channel. See you in my next videos. Take care.